It has officially been 6 months since I took office as your Ward D City Council person. I just want to say thank you so much for an amazing start to this year, albeit with a lot of serious challenges. Looking back at the winter season, we started out with historic snowstorms in January and February that took a toll on residents, particularly our elderly population, and where our city was just getting on its legs to be able to address the snow. We filled in the gaps and got teams of volunteers from our Ward D Council office out there to shovel out people to make sure that everyone was able to get out of their home. On February 1st, witnessed ICE agents arrest people at the light rail stop in our neighborhood. Even when I identified myself as an elected official, they told me to stop asking questions and even threatened me with arrest if I tried to keep filming the abduction of one of our neighbors. That day, 10 of our neighbors in Jersey City and Hoboken were taken by ICE, and we organized an emergency bilingual ICE Watch training and Know Your Rights training that very same night with 1,000 people in attendance, including our Zoom participants. It was an incredible community response. We turned that into action that very next weekend when hundreds and hundreds of neighbors joined us for a protest through the heights that we organized. And even in sub-zero temperatures, we made it loud and clear that immigrants belong here, but ICE needs to get out. At the end of February, we learned about Hudson Regional Health's plan to completely close Christ Hospital without permission from the New Jersey Department of Health. And we immediately supported community members' people's plan to save Christ Hospital because of the impact we know this has on our neighbors here in the Heights. We protested, we participated in the sit-in demonstration, and that continued pressure forced Hudson Regional Health to finally schedule the public hearing that was necessary to close the hospital from the beginning. Unfortunately, they backed out last minute and put a restraining order against the New Jersey Department of Health. That time, hundreds of community members had already come out to voice their dissent against the closure of the hospital, and so we held the meeting anyway, even without the hospital there, even without the Department of Health there, thanks to partnership with Assemblywoman Katie Brennan and other electeds to make sure that community voices got heard that night. Now, there have been a bunch of legal battles. The restraining order against the Department of Health is a bit tied up in court. HRH is appealing a recent decision that denies the right to that restraining order. So there's a lot more legally to come soon. But your Ward D Council office is working really hard to develop a plan to make sure that we can get healthcare back here in the Heights and prevent that site from just becoming luxury condos. Please stay tuned for more about our people's plan to make sure that we can actually have a publicly owned healthcare facility there for the people. In March, the council voted 8-1 to approve of a one-way conversion on Franklin Street to make room for a two-way bike lane there, which has been the goal of street safety advocates and bicyclist advocates for years. This project is fully funded by the Department of Transportation in New Jersey's grant, and it's come on the backs of community meetings after community meetings where we've gotten feedback from residents here about what's going to make the most sense. Data from the state shows that almost 100 crashes occurred in that corridor just between 2018 and 2025 alone. These upcoming street safety improvements are going to be critical for pedestrians, cyclists, and for drivers alike. And we're really proud to have gotten the city together, to have the Department of Public Safety work with the infrastructure department, work with community members to make this possible. We also have some other great street safety improvements coming up very soon, where our council just voted last week to approve more multi-way stops. Nelson, Palisade, Ferry, we have a lot more coming up. Also in March, our city council relaunched the Rent Protection Special Investigatory Committee. Because our city has not made good on the enforcement of critical housing protections, we need to find out what is going on, what are the structural problems here. We're collecting public testimony, gathering key documents, and getting city records from offices like Code Compliance, Landlord Tenant, and the Municipal Prosecutor's Office. Now, this is all helping us understand the bigger picture of the problem, and among other structural obstacles, we know that understaffing and anemic resources are big pieces of the puzzle here. So to that end, just last week, our city council voted to authorize a request for proposals so the administration can go look for an outside contractor to help us with debt collection, make sure that we are actually getting fines brought back into our city coffers from the bad actor landlords out there who are failing to meet the rent and housing protections that our tenants and our residents deserve. In April, we joined our neighbors in opposing Van Kuren LLC's proposed solid waste transfer site at the edge of 1 and 9. Now, this solid waste transfer site is in an already overburdened community, and it raises a lot of concerns about increased traffic and pollution. They scheduled a mandatory public hearing, but it was outside of the neighborhood. It was all the way down West Side. And so we're working to make sure that residents can actually come and successfully voice their concerns to the public and to Van Kuren itself by scheduling another hearing. More on that really soon. Throughout May, we focused on addressing RUBS, Ratio Utility Billing Systems, which is a system that some landlords are using to clump together all the utility charges in a building and pass it on to tenants. Without a complete ban being possible in Jersey City, because state law would prevent us from that, we wanted to at least make these RUBS costs transparent to every single tenant who has to pay them. So we passed an ordinance, 9-0, unanimous in City Council, to make sure that landlords show their math if they are passing these costs on to tenants. And some tenants in Jersey City have already seen their RUBS charges disappear completely since we passed that law. This is just one step we're taking to make sure that rent protections and tenant protections are real in Jersey City. Also that month, we saw rising tensions and struggle inside of Delaney Hall, the private prison holding ICE detainees in Newark, our neighboring city. There was deplorable conditions in there, from worms in the food to unsanitary living spaces, improper medical attention, and most of all, detainees there were fighting for their freedom and fighting against coercive actions from ICE, like being coerced into signing voluntary deportation papers. This inspired a hunger and labor strike among detainees at Delaney Hall, and in turn, mass protest outside in support of those hunger and labor strikers. We are committed to continuing to support these efforts to protest Delaney Hall, to make sure that they get the legal and financial support they need, and to make sure that each of them is released and we can shut down Delaney Hall. It's the only right thing to do. We also put our money where our mouth is by divesting from Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank has been financing Geo Group, the private prison operator that operates Delaney Hall, to the tune of $2.5 billion. It was unacceptable for Jersey City to continue having money in this bank. So Councilman Brooks and I proposed that we pull our over $200 million from Citizens Bank to send a clear message that we will not support the financing of private ICE profiteers. Thankfully, the administration jumped immediately, said yes, and we got that money out of there. With public pressure growing on Citizens Bank, they have entirely committed to divesting from Geo Group and Core Civic, another ICE private prison profiteer. In June, we successfully introduced and passed our Youth Liaison Council ordinance. This was a project developed by youth residents of Jersey City that came to us and asked for more ways that they can be involved in our city government and make an impact in our local communities. And so we drafted this language in partnership and under the leadership of 12 and 13-year-olds, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and got the Youth Liaison Council passed. Now we're going to be able to have nominations from across the city of young people who want to step up and take on these leadership roles. And that brings me to today. Our city council just unanimously voted to enter into a contract with Trenton to accept a $105 million loan to help get us out of our historic budget crisis. We could not have responsibly introduced and passed an unbalanced budget, which is what would have happened without this $105 million loan, though it unfortunately comes with a steep 15% tax increase mandated by Trenton. We're going to have a lot more discussion on the budget, tax increase, and other fiscal issues coming up as budget hearings begin just this week. So please stay tuned for that. While we've been tackling all these issues over the past 6 months, we're still consistently engaging with the community every step of the way. We hold weekly office hours where constituents can just walk in and chat with us and talk about the kinds of services that we can help them out with. We do bi-weekly town halls where we walk through every single item on the upcoming week's city council agenda. And we've also been convening leaders in the neighborhood together. We got neighborhood association representatives to get organized and come together across Ward D. We met with parks, gardens, and farmers market leaders from Ward D. And of course, we're working really closely with the Central Ave Special Improvement District, where we were doing things like a planting and cleanup day together. We also had our first ever roundtable of arts and culture leaders in the Heights so that we can really focus on how to bring that kind of programming and more events to the Heights. Moreover, we're following up with residents daily over phone, over email, and our constituent service intake form, which has gotten hundreds of submissions since we took office in January. We're really proud to have resolved so many of the issues that have come into our office, and we're committed to continuing to fix problems and organize with residents across Ward D, from supporting a bigger tree canopy CIP on the Western Slope to making sure to meet with the ignored residents of the downtown part of our district. Please stay connected with us and never hesitate to reach out to our council office and be involved in our movement to build people power here so that this city works for us.